Hello and welcome back to In Detail episode 2, and we're doing our episode 2 in thanks to your feedback from episode 1 because we weren't sure how it would go down. Afa's back on the channel, legendary super experienced detailer. Now thanks again to your feedback, we often get a lot of questions, and quite rightly, why do you bother detailing brand new cars which have just come from the factory? So instead of replying in the comments, we have the luxury of being able to walk around quite a few new cars which we've received into NVN London, and I'm going to walk through with Afa and highlight some of the reasons why we detail and take care of brand new cars which have just left the factory. Okay, the first car, which, I mean, we're actually in disbelief that we get to bring this car to you. I think there's only 2 in the world right now. This is the Brabham BT62. This is actually chassis 1. This car has just broken the Bathurst lap record. This exact car has actually just come from the Geneva Motor Show. It's recently been resprayed because this is their working prototype chassis. So as a track-only car at the minute, it has taken a pounding. But as a result of it being resprayed, it's now Afa's job to go around and highlight some of the reasons why we might detail a new car. So I'd like to say at this stage, we're not here to highlight any manufacturer problems.
No.
This is, you've been in the game, what, over 15 years?
Yes.
This isn't the manufacturers are lazy.
No.
This happens from every single brand, and it's because the care for paint alone is an industry in itself. And quite simply, oftentimes brands don't have the manpower, the experience, or namely the time.
It's mainly the time.
They're in the business of getting cars out of the door for clients. The original concept is that when a car lands at the dealership for its PDI, which is its pre-delivery inspection, the team at the dealership is often supposed to take it up to the level which you might expect. Once again, they don't always have the time as well. I mean, we're seeing more new cars than ever, and so this is why we exist. All right, Afa, so tell us what you found so far on this newly sprayed car.
So we found swirl marks, some random scratches under that. We found some sanding marks. I'll give a little explanation. So swirl marks are generally caused by incorrect washing techniques. On our previous video, we showed how to wash vehicles properly.
Yep.
So the whole purpose of that is so the swirl marks don't appear.
So if you guys didn't watch it, we'll put the link below. The idea of that was how that you can use our techniques to wash your car sunny Sunday afternoon, car on the drive, right?
That's correct, yes.
One of those methods was the 2-bucket method. One for your clean mitt, so you can wash it off and make sure all of the sediment sinks to the bottom.
That's
and then
correct.
you have clean water, so you don't apply any grit or grime back on a fresh surface.
That's correct. So if you haven't got the 2 buckets, you'll be putting grit back onto the vehicle, which will do micro scratches on the vehicle, and that's what the swirl marks are. That kind of technique you'll be avoiding.
Cool. And then you found some sanding marks.
Yes, sanding marks is quite common when cars are getting resprayed. Sprayers have to polish the sanding marks out. Generally they're brushed for time, and they do leave little bits here and there which detailers we spot, and we'll try and get them out.
Yeah. So look, one thing I found interesting when I walk around a car with Afa is the majority of the time you and I wouldn't spot any of this. Yeah. So I do want to stress that this isn't a bad job. No. We'll show you around lots of other brands and cars shortly. This is just standard manufacturing process.
I see it with literally every car.
Every single car.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not that it's bad, it's just that we like to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. His eyes are weird. Like he picks up on some stuff you wouldn't believe. Let's just talk about the unique properties of a track/race car.
Yeah.
These cars are all about saving weight. As a result, the paint on a race car might be thinner.
Yeah, they generally are thinner than normal cars.
In the instance of taking care of a paint on a race car, I mean, every car that we detail, we use a paint depth gauge, right?
That's right. That's
but
correct.
Even more so on this car, it might not be the case because this isn't strictly a finished car. But on race cars, the paint might be extra thin, so it's important to use paint depth sensor to make sure that you're not going to buff through the.
That's correct. It's really important. Without a paint depth gauge, you'll be working blind. You need to know the readings of the paint, even though we're taking microns off. I mean, it's like really minute. We still need to measure the paint to be safe.
Cool. Okay. We'll be doing a proper how-to detailing video in future, but right now as episode 2, we just wanted to address some of your guys' more common questions as to why we do this in the first place. Anyway, on to the next example from another manufacturer. Okay, one of the largest surface areas that we've had to work on. There is a brand new Rolls-Royce Cullinan rolled through our doors. From afar, this looks just like a black car. This is one of the fanciest black paints that I've seen. I'll splice in now a close-up of the fleck on this. Is there any particular process that you have to go through when you're working on a paint that is this fancy?
Yeah, you would. I mean, normally with majority of the cars that come in, we'll do a reading first, and then we'll do a test area.
Right.
So we'll see what combination works with the car. There's no point of going too aggressive, so I'll always start with a light pad, light polish, and then see how that works. If it's not working, then we'll move to the next step. What I do see is a lot of people will try and go aggressive, or they'll try and just use one pad and one polish. Unfortunately, paints sometimes react differently to pads and polish, so you really do need to have a variety of pads and polishes as well to see what works with the paint.
So your general rule is start soft and work up?
Yes, if you can get away with a soft polish and a soft pad, and if the paint likes it, then happy days.
I love that. He treats it like an organism. If it reacts well to it, that's cool. So let's dive into this paint, because this is magic. It's like you've fallen into this constellation of stars. It's an amazing thing. And then we'll talk about the unique application of the pinstriping on these, because these are actually on the exterior rather than under the clear coat. So let's delve into this paint and show us what you found.
On this section here, we found some sanding marks. And as we were explaining earlier on, these areas sometimes get missed by the actual manufacturer, but it's our job here to literally go through every millimetre of the vehicle. That's why detail is called detail, because it's all in the fine details. So with these sanding marks, you've got to be really careful. We'll do a paint depth reading, and as well we'll work out a combination. Normally you'd have to use a cutting compound for the actual taking the sanding marks off. Depends whether they've refined it to 5,500 grit, 3,000 grit sandpaper.
So while we're next to the Cullinan, the pinstriping down the side is unique to Rolls-Royce because they are literally painted on top of the clear coat. How do you go about looking after that?
Right. Yes, you've got to be so careful. So generally, if I'm going to polish over these lines, I'll try and use the softest approach possible.
I bet.
There is no lacquer on them. It's just
paint.
It's just paint.
It's just paint,
It's just one guy at Rolls-Royce with a very steady hand painting over the lacquer.
Yeah.
There's no.
What a responsibility this guy has.
So yes, it can be polished. So you're not trying to polish the actual line itself. Above the line and below the line are the swirl marks.
Sure.
So there are there's a couple of ways around it. You can mask that off.
That in itself is a skill.
It is a skill within itself, but then you've got to be careful as when you're peeling it off, you don't peel that. So there's a lot of do's and don'ts. A safe way would be just to try and use a really soft pad and a soft polish, which is not really going to affect much, but if you take your time, you should remove the light swells below and above it.
Because what's interesting about this is with most, I would say, painted livery on a car, it's under the clear coat. This, you can actually feel it.
Yes.
But that is a hand painted line, and I would imagine if anything too abrasive is on that, it has a very distinct edge which you could catch and just peel it off. So these you have to be super careful about. In fact, we've done some extra work on this specific car, so you might notice that the areas on the Cullinan which are typically chromed are now all black. So this customer has asked for us to apply our own version of the black pack for him and turn this into a fully stealthed out Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Actually, when you stand back, you can kind of appreciate it more. So think of that top section there, all around the windows, normally completely chrome. We've blacked it out for him. On the theme of keeping this fair, because this is not a video highlighting manufacturers' imperfections. This is the industry of paint on cars, just generally across the board. So I'm not going to leave my car out. Let's keep this fair. Now, you have done a very light correction on it so far?
Yes, we've just done a really light polish just to make the colour pop a little bit. We will be going in depth and doing a full correction on this vehicle, doing a reading on each section as you go along.
So you would read each panel?
Oh yeah, I would read, so if I'm doing a paint depth gauge reading on the door itself,
Yeah.
I'd most probably jot down about 8 sections within the door. Just
Really? Just on the door?
Yeah, just
Right,
on the door
interesting.
itself, because, you know, it could
Thorough
vary.
process.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. All right, so the very front of this has factory PPF on it. Believe it or not, I haven't got around to having my own car PPF'd yet. You've done a light paint correction on it, but there are still some slightly deeper scratches.
They are, yeah.
When we say deep, you know, it's subjective, ones which are still remotely visible.
We call them deep random scratches. So the way it works is your top layer, you would have your swirl marks.
Yep.
It's caused by wash marring. And once you remove the top layer, below that you will have your deep random scratches, which are heavier scratches that are just random,
Right.
going in all different directions. And then below that you would have deep scratches. But
Right.
this vehicle doesn't have any deep scratches. It's just got your normal, your holograms, your swirl marks, and then your random scratches.
Cool. All right, well, let's see what we can actually see with our eyes, not his eyes. Straight away, you can see around the primary light source, there is these little dots, slightly pitted, a tiny bit scratched. How do we get those out?
You would try and find the right combination of pad and polish.
Right.
I would generally start with correction compound,
Okay.
with a correction pad as well. Try and remove as many defects as we can, but that pad within itself would leave micro marring. So then after that we would have to refine as well. You know, you might have to do 2-3 stages of machine polishing to really get the paintwork as immaculate as possible.
Next up, we have the honour of having a new Ford GT in NVN London. Overall, pretty good paintwork, really.
Yeah,
overall.
I'm quite impressed.
But you, Ninja Eyes here,
Yeah.
picked up on something. Now, just run us through. You're using a yellow tinted light on this car rather than the brighter, purer white light.
That's correct, yeah. These new lights that we have in can switch between warm and cool.
Okay.
Generally lighter coloured cars, you can see the defects better with warmer light.
Okay.
Darker coloured cars, you can see the defects better with a cool light.
Okay, so it's not all new cars that we're taking care of here.
Yeah.
One of the other questions we get regularly is, why would you equally bother protecting a well-used car? Now, there's well-used and then there's well-used but looked after okay.
Yeah.
But so we have in a Porsche Macan here, GTS. Afa's going to run us through the condition of the front and what we can still do to resurrect any imperfections and still bring it up to scratch, pardon the pun, so that we can still apply PPF. It's not always too late to apply it. So run us through what's going on at the front.
This vehicle's roughly got about 5,000 miles on there. There's stone chips all over the front there.
They're very subtle.
Yeah, they're very subtle, but they're all over the place.
There's a few here.
Yeah.
They're really, really light. There's
Really
one
light. So
tiny
this
one
gentleman
there.
has taken care of his vehicle, but you know, he has said to us, please can we take care of the stone chips. So before we PPF the car, we'll get the correct color code for this, and then we'll dab in these stone chips, we'll wet sand them, and then we'll polish them out to flatten them.
Right.
So once we're putting the PPF on, you won't get a bubble.
The, I guess, annoying character trait of PPF is it has this wonderful ability of magnifying any
Oh,
imperfections.
it likes to
It's
magnify
the
everything.
worst.
Yeah.
So not only is the purpose of getting the surface of the car immaculate so that the PPF itself adheres properly, but if there is any imperfections in the form of, I don't know, some tar that's left on the surface or some grit or stone chips, you know about it.
Yeah.
Once it's on, it's just the most annoying thing. So it's not too late to get your car PPF'd, even if there are stone chips, but we do have to do an extra process of correction beforehand.
That's
But it
tough.
can be done. As long as it's not absolutely peppered, like craters of stone chips,
Yeah.
you might want to have the front end resprayed first. Okay, we also have in an original, I mean, this is one of the most immaculate and original R33 Nissan Skylines that I've seen. Basically, this has been so well looked after that there's nothing for us to really work on. However, there isn't, to our knowledge, a template for an R33. So we are creating a bespoke template for this car. And these things, you know, more than ever need taking care of. These are well and truly a modern classic now. So with any luck, we'll be able to feature an R33 on the channel soon. Okay, we also have this stunning Puffamante Spider in from HRO in Lamborghini. Now the majority of this car, Alpha, has currently been done by the team, but we might have spotted, well, it hasn't been completely finished around the rear yet.
The rear
and
section.
We've conveniently managed to find a spot with an example of holograms.
Yeah, there's still some holograms and some buffing trails left on the rear section of the car.
So let's see if we can check it out. This from afar, or not under direct sunlight, looks like a flat green. It does, however, have almost as stunning a fleck as the Rolls-Royce. It's hidden until direct sunlight, and then the high spots on the car just flare out. It's stunning. So the area which hasn't been done yet, as indicated by this masked off area, is this rear section, this panel here. So if Alpha shines the light on it, you might be able to see, there you go, look. You see those flares which are, so take the center point of the light, and around it, it isn't a clean dot, it sort of flares out. That once again is an area that has been incorrectly polished.
That's correct, yeah. Generally it's from the factory itself, they're machine polishing, and generally they're not refining after they've machine polished, so yeah, there's trails from their machine polisher.
But look again, this hidden fleck that comes out, and this is why we have to use these intense lights to really show up the character of the paint in its true form. And we have also, I mean, this stuff is so trick. We have gloss forged carbon on the outside, and then on the inside of the car we have matte forged carbon. It's a pretty crazy spec, and as this series unfolds we'll go through all of the tips and techniques of how to take care of all sorts of elements of your car. This series started as a test. The views and the feedback on video 1 was incredible, and it's the comments from you guys that keeps us going as to what you want to see. So as always, comments below what you guys want to see from this guy's brain. Some of the stuff he comes out with. I love how you treat paints almost like a vintage wine. You're like, oh yeah, Aston Martin, 2003. I remember that clear coat. Yeah, comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Ciao.